So,
We're on? Yeah, put your mic on.
go ahead.
I hate this mouse. All right. We are back.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Rags and the Riches Forum. I'm your host, Sean Yu, joined by Zach Onimus. We're about to start round 5, and we got another nice feature match for you with 2 decks we haven't seen on camera yet, so this is pretty exciting.
Yeah, and these are, I think, some of the sweeter decks in Pauper. They're consistent and they've been around, but we have James Farnsworth on Bogles, and we have John O'Connor on Bug Midrange, which I believe is a maybe a Tortured Existence, Grim Harvest type list.
Yeah.
Maybe not Tortured Existence, but Grim Harvest for sure.
Yeah. And just taking a look at these, both of these players are 3-1, which means they could likely, the winner likely has a good chance of drawing into the top 8, but no guarantees yet. As we see here, 13th place, James's name is dominating the screen. But let's take us over to the match and see how players are doing. Oh, we got the action already started, fast and furious.
Oops. All right, so it looks like the action's on James, and he's attacking without an enchantment. And this plays out pretty similarly to the modern version of Bogles. You have 3 different hexproof creatures in Glade Cover Scout, Slippery Bogle, and Solana Ledgewalker. The first 2 are because they're 1 mana, and the last one because it has a form of evasion, can only be blocked by creatures with flying.
Okay.
And then you have just an assortment of enchantments. You've got like Oblivion Ring for removal, Seal of Primordium, because there's sort of enough enchantments and artifacts running around the format. And then you've got Hyena Umbra, Ethereal Armor, Armadillo Cloak, and unlike the mono green Stompy list, there's only 2 Rancor, because this list isn't trying to just like get in a little bit of damage. It's trying to make like a 12 or like a 17-15 first strike lifelink trample type creature.
That's kind of like the Cyclops deck, except very different in a way too. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the Bug Midrange deck that John's working with?
So I don't know a ton about this list. There are a few different like black-green graveyard decks in the format, and they generally use either like Tortured Existence or some other form of recurring advantage. It sounds like his is on Grim Harvest, which is a card from Cold Snap, which has the recover mechanic. So you can return target creature from your graveyard to your hand, so it's essentially a raise dead. But whenever one of your creatures dies, I think it's, yeah, your graveyard, then you can pay the 3 mana for the recover cost, and it goes back into your hand. And if you don't pay that, it gets exiled.
Okay.
So right now he's got into play a Crypt Rats, right, which is a card where you can pay X black mana, it has to be black, and you do X damage to each creature and each player. So, you know, if he gets that online in some form of life gain, he can have repeatable board sweeps. So this is Slippery Bogle on the field, and James has essentially another version of it in Glade Cover Scout. All right, and John evokes a Muldrifter. He's stacking it in such a way that the sacrifice trigger is going to resolve after the draw trigger. So he drew 2 cards, and then he's casting Undying Evil, which says the Muldrifter is going to die, and then it's going to undie. So it's going to come back with a +1/+1 counter. So he's going to draw 4 cards and have a 3/3 Muldrifter for 4 mana and 2 cards.
Yeah, interestingly, I was talking to Warren Woodward about his feature match after he won against the Red Cyclops, and I was asking him if he had any interesting twists on his deck since he ran it back from Rags and Riches 3. And he actually mentioned this card specifically. Looks like John has a main deck copy of that, and that was just excellent value with that copy of Muldrifter. 4 mana, draw 4 cards, get a 3/3 flyer.
Yeah, and that's sort of balanced out by the fact that he has cards in the main deck like Executioner's Capsule, you can see there on the bottom.
Yeah.
He's going to have 0 targets except for his own creatures in this matchup. So James is coming over for 5 damage with lifelink and first strike, I believe.
So that what's on that Glade Cover Scout?
It looks like it's Ethereal Armor and Armadillo Cloak. And
Armadillo Cloak was just so busted and limited back in the day.
And the other white 1 mana enchantment is Hyena Umbra, which gives it Totem Armor and I think first strike still. So both those are pretty good. And at this point, like John has got to feel like he's racing to flashback that Chainer's Edict because probably a lot of his removal is going to be targeted.
Yeah.
And so he just went up to 6 mana. And so James, on his end, is kind of trying to race to get a second creature onto the battlefield. So John plays a Fume Spitter, which you can sacrifice to put a -1/-1 counter on things. There are some persist creatures, but it's also just kind of a good value card. You can undie it and...
Oh yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, yeah. And then, it also lets you essentially activate Recover whenever you want it. So you just have this thing that can sack it. I think it can even target itself. And then at that point, you can just recover a Mole Drifter or whatever you want to. So this deck is very much a synergy deck. It's definitely putting together a lot of pieces, but kind of like Jund in Modern, a lot of the pieces are just sort of valuable on their own. Crypt Rats, Mole Drifter, Fume Spitter, all perfectly good cards by themselves. All right, so we see Mole Drifter and Fume Spitter are going to jump in the way of this Glade Cover Scout. I think it has first strike, so he's just hoping to not take trample damage. But he is going to take one.
Nonetheless. Looks like...
he probably shouldn't have changed the life total first, but if he verbally communicated it, then it won't be an issue. But
yeah, looks like James is going to hold him to it. Did he have another copy of Undying Spirit?
That would be my guess, although I don't believe that you can undie something that already has a counter on it.
Well, he had the Fume Spitter.
Sure, yeah.
Said it.
That's the full combo. Well, I'd be real surprised if he does something other than flashback Chainer's Edict here.
That'd be
I don't
pretty good.
believe there are any instant speed creatures in James's deck, so... All right, there we go. Ooh, I don't think that does what he wants it to.
What was that card?
I believe that's Dawn Charm. I think it gives regeneration, but that does not affect sacrifice effects.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, card target spell that targets you. That's the mode he chose.
Oh, whoa. That's real good. I'm a little embarrassed I didn't know all the modes on Dawn Charm right there,
I mean, get off the program, bro.
All right. So that's the Bogles game plan in a nutshell right there.
Yeah. So it looks like Bogles takes game one. We're going to go to the sideboard and see what these guys are working with here.
All right. So John's going to take out some of those targeted removal spells that we saw. Like, I don't have his list, but, the... Oh, I see. Look at this. He got a printed out version? What a guy. So some of the cards are not going to be good, like Executioner's Capsule and Tragic Slip, but he already has 4 Chainer's Edicts in the main.
All right.
So the sideboard, I would expect to bring in
Nature's Claim?
Wickerbow Elder, Nature's Claim, Duress, and Crypt Rats. Those are all pretty good here.
Yeah, Wickerbow Elder, just because it's a beefy body that actually benefits if your opponent has some creatures removed. Also excellent synergy with Fume Spitter.
Yeah, so even though initially the Fume Spitters didn't look good, they might stay in.
Yeah, so here's a Nature's Claim, just the standard disenchant effect, also good against Bogles. You like the Crypt Rats here?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times the ways that the Bogles list fights the edicts that they expect to come, I mean, most people board them in, but John already has 4, is they'll just throw out extra guys, and sometimes they even have cards like Colony Garden in the sideboard to just sort of throw a random body onto the field.
That's a common?
Yeah. So the Crypt Rats are real good for those times where they put all their enchantments on one guy, but then throw 2 other 1/1s into play, so you can kind of clear those. Plus, you can punish him for putting an enchantment on the stack and then sacrificing Crypt Rats in response.
Okay. Well, now for James, he's presumably going to be on the draw. What do you like here?
I don't know what Quiet Disrepair does.
Huh.
Destroy Enchanted Permanent. Well, I don't think that's probably for this matchup. I would expect him to bring in maybe just the Lapse of Certainty. I wouldn't really want to play like something like a Tormod script because I think you're really still playing a value game, post-board. The Manatize, I think, might have too much opportunity to miss, but doing something like Lapse of Certainty, a flashback, Chainer's Edict is essentially just a counterspell.
Yeah.
It's not too bad for
That's
white.
Sweet. So it looks like James is ready to present. John's going to go ahead and give his deck a good shuffle. Hope it comes up a little bit rosier for him this time.
Yep. Yeah, being on the play can be big in matchups like this where, having a Chainer's Edict on turn 2 is a much bigger deal if you're on the play and they don't have an opportunity to play a second creature.
Certainly.
So we'll
no
see.
laps involved.
No laps, that's right. Yeah, Dawn Charm. That was a thing. 3 modes. Who knew?
And these charms.
I was going to be so sad when he's like, regenerate creatures. I'm like, that's not how sacrifice works. But he knew.
All right. So John O'Connor is going to go ahead and lead with his tap land to gain him a life.
Yep. I believe that's a
Jungle Hollow?
Thornwood Falls. All right, and here's a Glade Cover Scout. Pretty much have a hard time keeping any hand in Bogles that doesn't have a hexproof creature in it. So
that's the Glade Cover Scout?
Yep.
Okay, great. No enchantment on turn 2? Or is that a Rancor? Ooh.
There we go. Get him.
Get him for 3?
Yeah, so Rancor, I can't believe it's a common. Super powerful. But interesting, not one of the more powerful enchantments in this particular deck because of the fact that, you have to attack multiple times with the same creature, so you have to get the toughness to the point where it can survive.
Yeah, well, interestingly, Rancor back in Urza's Legacy was in fact a common, but I think it got shifted to uncommon in M13 because they would never print something that's so dominant in Limited anymore.
So you know what I'm shocked not to see in James's list here is he's not playing Ancestral Mask.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know what Ancestral Mask does, but if you want that 17, 15 creature, that's how you get it.
Yeah, that's very similar to the white enchant with the Ethereal Armor.
Yeah, very similar. But +2/+2 is big, very, very fast.
So here we have, looks like an Armadillo Cloak that hit the, no, it's an Armadillo Cloak.
Okay, but it looks like John does have a Chainer's Edict in his hand, so.
Very timely.
Yep.
Chainer's Edict is going to cause the Glade Clever Scout to get sacrificed. And now James needs to rebuild.
Sean, you destroy our worlds.
That was your thing. I take no blame.
That you kicked? Sure.
I did not kick it.
All right, let's
No
see
one saw me do it.
what James has to reload with. So he cycled an Onslaught. And this is actually the first time today I think we've seen an Onslaught land cycled, but they're ubiquitous in the format.
Yeah. Was that one the secluded step or?
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool. Onslaught lands, I thought they would be better in a Hawker format, but there are actually quite a few powerful lands. And speaking of powerful cards, Muldrifter is going to attempt to hit the battlefield, and get blown out by Mana Tithe.
Lapse of Certainty.
Oh, Lapse of Certainty. Well, I don't think he minds drawing that at all.
Yeah, not exactly blood.
So John paid full retail for the Muldrifter. It's going to pay 5 mana. It's going to get countered for a turn by a Lapse of Certainty. This is a color-shifted memory lapse, except a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, it's like the white Chittering Rats.
Yeah. So it's going to put it back on top of the library. So it's a slight tempo disadvantage for John, but he's not facing down any pressure, although that changes his turn with another Glade Cover Scout, followed by an Ethereal Armor.
Okay. Yeah, the cycle lands tend to just see play in the monocolored lists, and just the ones that are trying to play a control role. So, mono black specifically, and then it seems to see some play in sort of the Glinthawk lists and the ones where you're going to be able to return a lot of your own things to your hand. So you play tap land early and you get a card later.
So Bojuka Bog here is going to take care of James's graveyard. I don't know if that necessarily accomplishes anything other than getting a tap land into play, but full retail again for that lapsed Muldrifter. This time it's going to resolve and trigger for 2 cards.
Okay. And James drew a Bogle. Ooh, this is always a dangerous game to Oblivion Ring something with an enters the battlefield effect. And I would anticipate him to play the Bogle because you want to be able to play around Chainer's Edict probably more than most
And
board
this is very
sweepers.
flavorful. We got an Oblivion Ring sitting right over that Muldrifter, so I think this is extremely appropriate.
All right, and so Ethereum Armor does count Oblivion Ring as an enchantment on the battlefield, so
That's good.
he's
deck
attacking
building.
for 3.
And it looks like here we have, you mentioned the Slippery Bogle, namesake of this deck, joins the battlefield. John right now is going to try to get enough mana to flash back the Chainer's Edict, but before he can do so, he needs to rebuild a little bit.
He might just hard cast a Tusker here.
Oh, Krosan Tusker?
Yeah.
One of the best common creatures ever printed.
Oh. Interesting that he would. What's his second play here? It's got to be a Moldrift or something that's worth using the mana in this fashion.
He could maybe cycle the Tusker, and he's going to elect instead to go with that post.
Brindlebore?
Oh, thank you.
Yep. And Sakura Tribe Elder? Okay.
Oh, that's a pretty good turn.
All right.
And now Chainer's Edict's going to be online starting next turn. Another way he could have gotten ahead, the interaction you were alluding to, is if you get rid of that Oblivion Ring, puts that Moldrifter back into play, it's going to trigger again.
Yeah, I think a lot of times if you're the Bogos player, it's almost in your best interest to side out some of the Oblivion Rings in this matchup. Just in that they sort of open you up to blowouts, and they don't necessarily increase your beatdown plan.
Yeah. So right there we had another. It's got mismatched Oblivion Rings. It's going to target, presumably, Brindlebore. It's probably going to get sacrificed to gain 4 life.
Yep. So Oblivion Ring is going to sit on the battlefield, so it's still +1/+1, but there's nothing under it.
Yeah. What's the second aura on the Blades cover? Blade Cavalry cover Scout?
I'm not sure, but it looks like it's something that taps that down. Taps down the Sakura Tribe Elder. Maybe the Grasp of the Hieromancer?
I believe he caught it.
Yep. But James did this knowing that he's now going to lose that creature to the Chainer's Edict.
Yeah.
Should John choose to cast it.
Are you surprised? Looks like they're still resolving that trigger, right?
No, I think it's now John's turn.
Oh, okay. I'm surprised he didn't sacrifice it to get a land. But maybe if he's planning on playing creature this turn, he would want to get a blocker.
He's got 7 mana and a Simic Growth Chamber in play, so he's got land drops for the next 2 turns. He's not too worried about that.
And James tapped out, so he does not need to worry about Mana Tithe.
Right.
So now Sakura Tribe Elder is going to do what it does best, get in for 1.
That's right. You bring that creature for the beats and for no other reason. Yeah, I think there's enough dies triggers, right? It kind of has a similar interaction as Fume Spitter, where being able to preserve a creature dying on the battlefield is worthwhile.
Yeah, sure.
Like earlier in the Rugtron list, we saw John Barber keep an expedition map on the battlefield and wait till he drew a Fenrir Marauder to gain the 5 life. So same kind of deal.
What's more aggressive than 1 Sakura Tribe Elder is 2 Sakura Tribe Elders.
It's almost twice as aggressive.
Yeah.
1.7 times as aggressive. All right. So James knows that there's a Chainer's Edict waiting in the graveyard for him. So I'm not sure what he drew, but I wouldn't be surprised if he waited until he drew 2 creatures before he committed any creatures.
Yeah. I think these draw-go matchups are where there'd be some merit to having the Tormod's crit, but the thing is it's just so situational, and you might get caught with it when there's nothing of value to use it on.
Yeah, I mean, it's not super often that you're going to be able to get 2 Chainer's Edicts in the yard. I mean, I think if you could rely on doing that, that would be good, but otherwise you're essentially getting half a card. It probably isn't worth it.
We've seen 2 of the different creatures out of the Bogos deck, the Slippery Bogle and the Blade Cover Scout. There's a third one that he has access to as well, right?
Yes, Solana Ledgewalker. And it's good because it has a form of evasion. So it kind of has pseudo flying. It can't be blocked unless that creature has flying. And it can't be blocked by reach. So sort of a time when Wizards was like, we should just make some sort of form of pseudo flying that doesn't follow any reasonable rules, and then give it hexproof.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll make.
I mean, flying, shadow, horsemanship, you need everything.
That's right, exactly. It's one of the reasons I love Eternal formats is a lot of times they're just full of cards that really shouldn't have been printed. Sometimes for power reasons and sometimes for clarity reasons. But they sort of break the rules of the game in a way that people can play forever and have it be powerful.
And here John tags in with a ragtag bunch of 1/1 beaters. Plays a Trinket Mage?
It's a Trinket Mage, and I imagine it'll get Sylvok Lifestaff. This was constructed playable in Pro Tour Scars of Mirrodin.
Yeah.
The same Pro Tour that I think Cobblade first won, and it's back again.
All right. So James got his enchantments, auras, but John's got his equipment. So I mean, we got to come prepared for battle.
Yeah, sort of a battle of the artificers. And this is another synergy in the deck where the dies triggers come into play. So you can equip a Secure Elder with Sylvok Lifestaff and then sacrifice it and gain 3 life.
Oh, but he's going to put it on the fire. So get in for quite a bit. Dawn Charm, fog mode, I believe.
All right. James is not giving up the ghost here at all.
Nope.
It feels like
Take
overwhelming
that.
odds, but he is playing fog. Interesting here, because playing fog also essentially means that he doesn't have any counter to the Chainer's Edict.
Yeah.
So in some ways, he kind of just concedes one of his creatures, which he needs.
And
But,
John O'Connor displays a post-combat creature for the turn. Looks like that's a copy of is that Crypt Rats?
I don't know. I didn't see it because James scoops him up. The Crypt Rats was kind of sitting on the field, threatening to do a bunch of damage even without the combat step. So
Yeah. So match is knotted at 1 apiece. We're gonna go back to the sideboard, see if anything needs to get changed in this matchup. And we discussed Tormod's Crypt. I think we both agree that's a bit too narrow in this matchup. But I think if your plan was to wait it out against Chainer's Edict, could have had some value there.
Yeah.
Still keep it benched on the play.
I think so. I think that there's some argument to be made for bringing Mana Tithe in when you're on the play. I think it might be a little too slow on the draw because you play a creature and then you get Chainer's Edict, but on the play, you play a creature, you can equip with Rancor and then hold up mana for Mana Tithe, and I think that's quite good.
Now, do you like Lapse of Certainty a little bit less than Mana Tithe on the play, or do you think you want both of them?
I think it's still good. I don't know that I want 8 of them, just in that, just like a lot of combo decks, you don't want to take out so many cards that you can't combo off, right? I mean, you're trying to build this crazy, like, Voltron type creature here.
Yeah. It looks like John had a third Brindle board in his sideboard. He may or may not have brought it in, but certainly showed up on the battlefield that last game, stalled things out a little bit. We didn't see any Wickerburrow Elders. Do you think that's just something we didn't see but was probably in the board nonetheless?
That's got to come into play.
Yeah, I think that's his best part of the matchup, right? Just having a big body that can block and also get rid of annoying auras is exactly where you want to be, especially with the synergy with Undying.
Yeah, and I would think also post-board, well, it doesn't actually have any synergy with Undying.
Oh, that's true, but I guess with Fume Splitter...
Yeah, you have to Fume Spitter, but I think especially seeing that Oblivion Rings are still in, Wickerburrow Elder just increases in value.
Well, actually, no. If it undies, you come into play with -1/-1, +1/+1. So you get a Jerkwood boards out of it.
Yeah, I don't know
With
that's
no
synergy.
I'm trying here, man.
All right.
Okay, so let's see if the players are back, ready to begin their third game. They're gonna just go ahead and give this nice shuffle. So likely puts the winner in the top 8, but not necessarily. We got 49 players here today, so 6 rounds doesn't necessarily guarantee an X1-1 to make it.
Yeah, I believe that Mike Kiesel's probably the lowest of the X1s on the tiebreakers. I was talking to him earlier. He said that he had 1 loss in the first round, and that was the only win that his opponent had all day. So I think he has the worst tiebreakers.
You would be
Almost
right.
correct.
He's tied for the worst. Same opponent's match win percentage.
All right, so there is a good chance that a win here would be give the winner the ability to draw in the top 8.
Yeah. Well, he did indeed lose round 1.
Yep. That's how I pretty much feel at all tournaments, though. If only I didn't lose round 1. And
I
then round
lose
2.
a lot of round 1s.
Losing the first 2 rounds is not so bad because
Yeah.
you just go to the beach.
It's not as bad as losing the last 2 rounds.
Yeah, that's rough. It's the middle 2 rounds I don't like to lose in. At least in the last 2 rounds, you feel like, I was almost there.
So green-white life gain land from Khans.
Okay.
What are the names for this cycle? Is Khans lands?
I don't think they have a land. It's the uncommon or the common cycle.
Uncommon would be just too powerful in Pauper.
Yeah. I think that when these were printed in Worldwick, they might have been uncommon.
Oh, and here we have the Solana Ledgewalker. First time we see it in this matchup. It's going to hit the battlefield. This is the most threatening of the creatures from the Bogle set.
Yeah, just for its ability to fly over creatures, even if it doesn't have.
Hard to block and hard to interact with.
All right.
Secure Tribe Elder on the battlefield.
You kind of see James flinch a little bit there, like, not an edict. But he dodged it. All right.
The flinching helps you dodge things from your opponent.
That's right. All right, so here's Hyena Umbra. +1/+1, and first strike and also totem armor.
Oh, Overwoot tells us that these lands are called ganglands.
Gainlands.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool name.
Is it? All right.
Ganglands, ganglands.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
I'm on board.
So that scout hitting the battlefield in a turn, sacrifice the
Secure Tribe Elder.
Signature Tribe Builder.
Yep.
Could have potentially waited one more turn to block the scout, but I think the ramp is too valuable right here. So he's gonna
Right.
tap mentally in his head. Now he's gonna do it. Out of order sequencing is perfectly fine.
And there's no way that James is going to run his Glade Cover Scout into a Sakura Tribe Elder. If he did, John would just snap, not get the land. So yeah, I think in this case, he's just saying, look, I'm not going to get anything out of it, so I might as well just ramp. I'm going to play more Dirtles anyway, so.
All right. Well, the chat is telling us that John's deck is actually called Bugs and Pigs. I think that's a little bit more flavorful, so let's go roll with that.
All right. Okay, so this is where we see like Crypt Rat is gonna serve its kind of function, right? It's gonna be able to wipe away the other Glade Cover Scout and potentially open up a Chainer's Edict.
Yeah.
Although it won't be able to get both Glade Cover Scouts because of the totem armor effect. All right, and again, James does not offer the trade because I think John would snap take it.
Yeah. Interesting. Why does Bugs and Pigs run Crypt Rats instead of Pestilence? Just a little bit easier to play?
It's easier to play, and there's more synergies with creatures. I mean, you have the Undying Evil effect, you have Grim Harvest. Pestilence is just slower, it's more black mana intensive to cast, and you can't recur it.
Yeah. Shout out right back to you, Dry Oats.
All right, so here's an Elder,
Okay.
and a Fume Spitter. Okay,
Wow. This
so
board is getting gummed up really quickly.
yeah, not for the Ledgewalker though.
Yeah. That Ledgewalker, what's the toughness on that guy?
Okay, so here's another Totem Armor, and this is a Snake Umbra. So this gives it the Ophidian effect and Totem Armor. So +1/+1, can draw a card, Totem Armor.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So the other one tap down a creature as a trigger, and this one draws a card on damage. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and I don't always see the Snake Umbra, so this must be one of the cards that's replacing the Ancestral Mass. But you can imagine if Ancestral Mass was on the field right now, you'd be attacking for 16 or something like that, right?
So it's got 2 Umbras on it and then an Ethereal Armor.
Right.
Okay, so that's quite big. It's 4/4, 5, 6/4.
Yep. All right, so John's probably
I
got...
stand corrected. It's 6/6. So that Crypt Rats is going to need to do a lot of work.
Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure if the Totem Armor, if you're forced to use both of them, or if you get to just use one of them, but I don't think that's the plan that John is on if he's hoping to win here.
So what are John's outs? Sweep some of the creatures with the Crypt Rats and hope to follow up with an Edict?
If he's got an Edict, he just pays 1 mana into the Crypt Rats and then edicts the other one away. So, I mean, he's not too far out of it, and he's got another turn, but if James draws another enchantment and he doesn't have a way to block it, the game's just over.
Yeah.
So this feels like do or die for John here.
Nature's Claim. That's very timely.
Okay.
Try getting rid of the Ethereal Armor. Now he's got 3 black available so that he can activate the Crypt Rats for 3 and sweep the board.
Still got Totem Armor.
Okay, that's the thing. In that case, I think I like doing this on upkeep to force the regeneration to tap down the creature.
Not how Totem Armor works.
Oh, really?
It's just, if it would be destroyed, it's not destroyed.
Wow, that blew my mind.
And I'm assuming James knows the rules here, so it looks like you can just use one of the Totem Armor effects. So that's quite good. All right, and now he's got a Dawn Charm in his hand, so he's going to be able to dodge a Chainer's Edict when it happens. I think, you can almost see James's hand shaking, like you can feel how close he is, So he's got another Ledge Walker and a Dawn Charm, so it's looking pretty good for him right now. Getting a draw card, that's sweet.
Is that an Armadillo Cloak?
That's an Armadillo Cloak. I think you just run out the other Ledge Walker here.
Yeah, I think you gotta present 2 threats, play a little bit better around Edict effects. Oh, that takes him off of Dawn Charm.
Dawn Charm only costs 2 mana, so... I got you.
Even better.
I got you.
Zach, always on top of these Pauper cards. Here we have 4 mana, tap out Wicker Bolt Elder. Okay. That's a start.
That was one of his better draws here, for sure.
So now he's going to go to 2 next turn. But there's an Armadillo Cloak.
Well,
so that's going to put him down to 1.
Yeah, I was going to say, I anticipate him to disenchant the Armadillo Cloak. It's a little scarier than the Snake Umber right now, although Snake Umber is continuing to give him cards.
Neckfire prizes for this event. First place gets a Jace Vryn's Prodigy, Snapcaster Mage, Sword of Fire and Ice, and Sword of Light and Shadow. All 4 cards. Second place gets the same thing, except no Jace Vryn's Prodigy. So Snapcaster Mage, Sophie, Sword of Light and Shadow. Third and fourth gets a Sword of Fire and Ice and a Sword of Light and Shadow. 5th through 8th gets a Sword of Light and Shadow. Pretty good prizes for a Pauper event.
Yeah. And I like when they give, like swords away. Somebody to me just really likes the swords.
Oh yeah, swords are pretty sweet, especially in Cube. I like my Stoneforge Mystics and Maverick shells. Get a sword, get a bunch of swords, start attacking.
Oh, interesting. James does not play the Armadillo Cloak pre-combat.
I guess that's potentially 1 damage, but a less valuable permanent. Could be worth it on this board state, but...
Well, it also costs him a card, but he does get to hold up Dawn Charm.
Okay.
So, I guess you're right. So, and he's still presenting 2 attackers next turn. But if John finds a Mole Drifter, that kind of changes the math again.
Oh, yeah.
I'm surprised.
Does not look like it's in the cards, so to speak.
Yeah. Looks like John has a Tragic Slip in his hand. I'm very surprised at that, since it can't target any of James's creatures.
Trinket Mage.
Okay.
Is there anything he can get besides the Silvok Staff?
Get the Silvok Staff. He's looking at Chainer's Edict like, why are you on the bottom of my deck? That doesn't help me at all.
It's on the bottom of the deck, so you can shuffle it with a Trinket Mage trigger.
He's just staring it down like, what are you doing to me, Chainer's Edicts? Little does he know, there's Dawn Charms aplenty waiting to muck up his plans.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, did any goblins show up today?
I don't think they showed up in force, but I think there might have been like 2 copies. I will check in a second.
Okay. I think sometimes when people think about Pauper, they think like, man, I can play all these cards that are legal in Vintage, and Goblins is not those cards, but that deck is very, very good. Like, definitely on par with the blue decks and the other ones we've seen today.
Yeah.
And I think it really rewards doing a lot of play testing with Goblins. I mean, knowing what order to sacrifice your Goblins in and not making all your triggers in real life is very hard. All right, so here's a Life Staff, and he's gonna equip it to the Trinket Mage. So, I mean, he's got the Tragic Slip, but that's only gonna give it -1/-1 unless he can get something else to die.
All right, I stand corrected. No Goblins in the field today. Very sorry. Does John have any way to kill the Trinket Mage?
Well, he's got the Tragic Slip in his hand, but he has no way to jump it up in front of those evasive Ledge Walkers.
Yeah, Tragic Slip. He needs to turn on the Morbid, or that's what it's called, right?
Yep.
All right, and that's going to be a handshake shake extended from John O'Connor.
Wow.
So that's game 3. James looks like he's going to move on to 4-1. Maybe put him in position to draw into the top 8, but we'll see. So we're going to come back to the booth. Hey guys, back. Sean Yu joined here with Zach Onimus. We just had a really cool round 5 featuring 2 decks we hadn't seen on camera just quite yet. Here we have this Knucklehead giving a handshake and some weird poses on camera. But that was pretty cool. We have about 15 minutes left still in the round. We're gonna see if we can help you guys find a backup match, but maybe we can see if we can also get James on camera. Would you like to interview him?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see how things are going right there. So we're gonna just pull up this metagame breakdown right here. I'm gonna hand the keyboard over to you.
All right.
I'll see if James is interested.
Okay. All right. So that was a very interesting matchup. I enjoyed watching Bogles take it down quite a bit. All right. So I'm not sure that we have any other matches going on, so we'll get James here in the booth, kind of talk to him about Bogles a little bit. I'm going to put up the coupon screen while we wait for him, but should be back momentarily. Everybody, feel free to use this coupon. Not only does it save you some money, but it also kind of helps us track, who's watching the stream and what your level of interest is and all that good stuff. So yeah, we'll be back in a little bit with James. All right, welcome back to the booth. I'm sitting here with James. He was the man piloting Bogles last round.
No.
Yep. So, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of the cards in your list before. I've never seen Dawn Charm before.
Yeah.
And you're not running Ancestral Mass. So
No.
how'd you get to this kind of list of Bogles here?
Well, last time I played in the Rags to Riches, I just got Chain of Edict like over and over and over and over again. So I decided to put in the Dawn Charms because it does the job of the Moment's Peace that I had in there before, and it also gives me the option of countering the Chainer's Edict, because that's usually people's only way around my hexproof creatures.
Yeah, I mean, that card looked great this matchup, for sure. Did you end up bringing in the Mana Tides? I saw you had the Lapse of Certainties in game 2.
I do have the Mana Tides, but I did not put them in that game.
Okay.
No.
So what do those come in for?
Usually if I see somebody playing a deck where their mana base is real low and they're constantly being aggressive and selling out, then
Okay.
I'll put in the Mana Ties to try to counter.
So something like Mono Green Stompy or like
Yeah.
Goblin, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what made you pick Bogles? I mean, Pauper's pretty open. You get to pick what you want for not too much money.
I thought it was so much like the modern version of the deck that I thought I could pull it off without, the Daybreak Coronets and all that other stuff. I thought it could still be done pretty easily with most of the core cards, and it's been working today, so.
So is this something that you kind of brewed up? You didn't look too much at like online lists or?
No, I made it myself. In fact, it was a little bit different to begin with. I started with bigger creatures like the Conifer Strider and the Sacred Wolf, and I just decided that the faster creatures are better.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your list looks very different from other lists I've seen. So, I'm not surprised that you brewed it up, and people have been asking. So,
thank you.
So there you go. So I think, depending on how the points work out, you may be able to draw into top 8 from this point. What matchups are you hoping to hit? What are you hoping to miss?
Wow. I don't care what I play as long as it's not mono black.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really hard.
Just too many edicts, huh?
Yeah, too many threats. Other than that, I'm pretty open. I haven't really seen anything else. I haven't lost anything else, so I don't know.
Yeah. It's hard to say what you're hoping to dodge when you're 5-0, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much, and you played great there, and good luck in the top 8.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Oh, this is yours.